Hi, and welcome back to Ensuring Success 2023, or welcome if you're just joining us. We're so happy you're here. We are winding down the last 3 sessions of our 14-hour marathon, so we hope most of you have been here for the whole time, because why not? So we've had some great sessions so far, and 3 more good ones to go. Great ones to go, sorry. Didn't want it. Anyway, okay.
You want to hype them up?
Yeah. We'll see. I'm Gail Perry, Editor-in-Chief of CPA Practice Advisor, and this event would not be possible without the incredible help of all of our sponsors, so I would just like to read them off here real quickly. They are ADP, Avalara, BotKeeper, Canopy, Instead by Corby, CPA.com, eFile4Biz, Relay, WriteWorks, SafeSend, SureLink, Wolters Kluwer, Xero, and Zoho. And Wolters Kluwer is the sponsor of this particular session, so we particularly thank them for sponsoring this and making all of this available to us to be able to provide free CPE credit for all of you. And speaking of free CPE credit, the way that you get your CPE is that 3 times during this session, we'll take a quick break, and on the bottom of the screen, we'll display a 3-digit code, and you'll hear this sound. When you hear that sound, that's a reminder to write down the 3-digit code so you can remember to use that with the other 2 codes you'll get during this session to claim your CPE credit after we're done. Whenever you're ready, it can be later today, it can be next week, there's not a rush. You can click the 2023 CPE credit option at the top of our menu and enter the codes for all the sessions you attended, and then you'll be able to immediately download your certificates. So I would like to briefly introduce our panel before we get started, and I'm joined by Sean Duncan, Cathy Rowe, Andy Root, and my co-moderator, Alexandra DeFelice, and I'd like them each to introduce themselves briefly.
So my name is Sean Duncan. I am the founder of SMD Consulting and Accounting. We specialize in advisory services and also do wealth management, estate planning, and some other things. Also have, he tried to move the camera away, did you see that? Also have a firm that's called Chief Proactive Advisors that we coach CPAs into moving into advisory.
Hi, my name is Cathy Rowe, and I'm the Senior Vice President for our U.S. Professional Markets here at Wolters Kluwer. Really excited to be here today and talk about this session. I've been with Wolters Kluwer for almost 18, 19 years now, really serving accounting firms from all sizes, from a sole proprietor right up through the Big Four with both audit and tax solutions, and always looking for ways to help you grow.
Awesome. And I'm Andy Root. I'm the Director of Membership at WriteWorks Academy, and we are a community of a little over 1,000 accounting firms where we're doing a lot of consulting and education, helping them on technology and business processes and helping them continue to get better every day. So.
And I'm Alexandra DeFelice, Director of Marketing and Business Development for Payne & Fears Law Firm in Southern California. Gail's co-moderator, taking questions from the audience. If you are not aware, there is a question panel underneath the streaming video, and I am the designated bell ringer for CPE.
Congratulations.
All right.
Thanks.
And please feel free to post questions for our speakers throughout the session, and also if you have any technical difficulties, you can post them there and we'll deal with that. And also, if you want to just give us a shout out, we would love that. And if you're spending time on social media, our hashtag is DecemberCPE, so you can either go there and see pictures from our previous sessions or add some of your own, or both. So this session is called How to Grow and Elevate and Scale Your Today's Accounting Firm. And before we talk about the various particulars of those things, let's define what we mean by grow, elevate, and scale. How do we distinguish those terms?
We'll start with the non-Hemsworth brother.
Yeah, I'm going to live on that for a long time.
I'm never going to stop repeating it.
Somebody needs to tell my wife. You know, starting with for accounting firms, I think it starts with their business model, right? Really understanding, and I don't want to oversimplify it, but who do we serve? Who do we want to serve? What do we want to offer? And what technologies do we want to use to deliver those services? So I really think at the core of it, really understanding what that business model is, and then also communicating that business model to the rest of your team. You know, if you only know it in your head and you don't tell anybody else in your firm, how are they supposed to recognize when ideal clients or prospects are coming in the door, right?
I think it is really important to, as a team within your firm, like, what does growth mean? It can mean different things to everybody.
Yeah.
Do I want to grow my revenue? Do I want to grow different service lines? Do I want to grow staff? Do I want to grow my profit margin? So what is your mission statement, and making sure that everybody has understands that and there's a strategy to support it.
And I'll give credit where credit's due. Kelly Gonsalves, some of you guys may actually know her. She's a friend. She distinguished scaling and growing as growing maybe more bodies, more people, more revenue. But I'm going to talk over there because I'm being pointed at. Sorry about that, camera. I know, I've never been here before, right?
Welcome.
So scaling means you can actually do more with less. We can leverage technology. We can be more efficient. We can and do different things without actually adding locations and bodies and stuff. Growing can be any version of that. And then elevating is sort of a hybrid in a lot of ways. We talked about this. You get to choose which definition you want because honestly, you choose what your goals are. And to Andy's point, if you don't communicate what those goals are, you're never going to get there anyways. So communicate that, but it starts with what definition. And scaling, as distinguished from growing, can be more with less or more with the same. Success is not defined by purely adding more bodies.
Right.
You get to define that.
Right. Yeah.
So let's start with growth, since we're going to do all three of these, grow, elevate, scale. Let's start with growth. Can we have some examples of firms that have grown, how they've grown, and how they might have been successful or challenges that they had?
Yeah, I can start there. We put out an industry survey every year as we head into our user conference. And what firms tell us is that when they use technology, that they have much higher realization rates. So being able to use technology to help improve their realization to grow that way. Again, staying on the theme of technology, there's a clear correlation with the firms that are using cloud solutions to being able to grow their revenue. So there's definitely that high correlation there, being able to leverage technology, and I think that's really key.
And over the years, I mean, what has our solution been? Throwing bodies at the situation. And we already know, we discussed this in previous sessions, getting employees is tough. Yeah. And so if you don't have that as the lean on, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? And technology is the easiest path. And you can't hide from it. A lot of us are stubborn and refuse to acknowledge that I'm not going to do it. This is the way I've always done it. That's fine. You will not grow if you don't adopt technology. You don't adopt new processes and new revenue streams. So growth can be in any shape you choose. But if you don't do something, the opposite is going to happen. You're going to decline or shrink. And maybe that's your goal. Maybe you're just trying to sunset out. Nothing wrong with that. But we're here to talk about growth and elevation and scaling. Without changes, technology has to be at the heartbeat of that.
Technology is a huge one, and you know, I talk to firms all the time. They're using 30, 35 applications. I mean, technology is all over the place, right? And we've got to simplify our businesses more, right? Really understand what that core set of technology stack is, so that. And this goes into efficiencies and everything else. I mean, if you've got 30 different applications and 30 different logins and all of your staff is all over the place and nothing talks to one another, that just creates a lot of chaos.
Yeah.
Well, you're also paying for it.
And you're paying for it, right?
Exactly. Totally. I think it is really important, once you have your mission statement and your strategy, to step back and say, well, what is standing in my way? Yeah. Is it, you know, what challenges do I have as a business I'm faced with? Is it pricing? Is it fee pressures? Is it client demands? Yeah. What is the competition doing? And what is my technology stack, like you said? And then develop a plan to overcome those challenges so that you can do more with less.
Well, and I have this conversation a lot with folks, is we can talk about growth and scaling, but is that even what you want to do?
Well, right.
I mean, I'm a small firm. I'm a small firm on purpose because it's about what can I accomplish with my family and my employees. I want to be a lifestyle. I want a certain type of a firm, whether that's 100 people or 10. I really don't care. For me, it started with defining success. Way too often, we're so busy with scaling for the sake of scaling, growing for the sake of growing, and just being bigger and is more. I will tell you, as a practitioner that was the largest firm in town, I was miserable when I was the largest firm in town.
Yeah.
I'm happier being smaller and more focused on what I want to do. I had to define what success was, and then the technology and the processes and the client mix, everything drives toward that. And as a very simple point, if you know what you're walking toward, you're walking to a destination, there's a lot of roads you can take to the destination. You get to choose which one fits you best. You know where you're going.
Right. And two, growing, to your point, is not always more and more. It's not more staff. It's not always more clients, right? Take a look at your existing client base after you've figured out what do you want your ideal days to look like, what do you want your ideal client profile to look like. Take a look at your existing client base. We talk about this all the time. Sometimes the biggest opportunities for growth is sitting within your existing client base.
Exactly, and maybe even working differently than you had before. Like one example could be, what is your outsource strategy? Being able to outsource some of that work that you can do faster, and then take your human staff to work on more the higher value advisory type of work. So I think there's definitely a continued trend to doing that and being able to work differently.
And tax season has been a hindrance on people, right? And they can't seem to get away with it or get away from it, but it's causing a lot of the issues because they're so busy during tax season that they can't, step outside of that to take a look at, instead of just those 4 months or whatever it is, take a look at the whole year. How can you do more recurring work throughout the year if that's what you want to do? And then once you kind of get that model down, then you can understand and decide what you want tax season to look like. It can be as big or as small as you want it to be, but if you got to make a decision on whether or not that's something that you like doing and that you want to actually grow.
Yeah, no, I think your point in terms of tax season comes, it's a very compressed season, and it's really difficult to keep up with the changing legislation. So, I think a good piece of advice is how can you leverage the entire year to educate your staff, elevate your staff so that they're able to quickly do that, and what technology can you use so that you can understand the changing legislation at speed throughout tax season.
And obviously I talk a lot about advisory. I'm passionate about advisory. I believe very strongly that that's where we have to be, and there's a lot of preaching that I go on that. It doesn't have to be part of what you're talking about. We're talking about growing, and I'm going to use a lot of advisory examples. We may get into pricing like we did in other sessions and types of things you can do for services. That can be a way you grow. But you can do bookkeeping and grow that. You can do tax and do that. You, again, get to choose. Right. But no matter what happens, efficiency is going to be the key. Because you're never going to grow if you're just doing it the same old way. And the only answer is, I'm going to work a few more hours. That's
a slippery slope.
Well, and you just I know what's going to start to happen. People are going to say, grow? I don't even have time to have my own business. I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time.
Exactly.
So when do you know, are they just making up excuses? Because again, it's not necessarily more work, right? And if you are efficient, it should maybe even take you less time.
Totally, and I think what happens too is that if your name's on the building, right? Sometimes you're the guy or the woman, right? That everybody's coming to, and you've got to be able to create a model that's not the case, where everybody that calls and comes in the door and is scheduling appointments is not wanting to schedule with you, and so getting into, and it's super hard because we go into these as production, right? We're heavy into production, and getting out of that mindset and getting more into an entrepreneur of a business mindset where you are enabling and empowering your team so that when those clients come in, you're able to plug that in and you have a process, and it's not all on you to get all the work done. All the time.
And I think it's also making sure there's a good alignment between the client that's looking for your services and is that the type of service and the type of client that you want. Right. There's definitely, again, a trend in terms of client optimization. Yeah. I've heard the term client culling to make sure that you have the profit margins that you want on a client and it's a good client to help with the growth.
So can we delve into that a little more? Because again, this has come up in other sessions about you get to the point, if you're at the point where you're saying, I want to grow, elevate, scale my business, you obviously are at the point that you could say, I'm successul, right? You're not struggling, you're not eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And in the beginning, I mean, it's good, I like it, but you have the right to now decide who your clients are. Totally. So what are some things that you can look at that can either be like to decide who you want your clients to be?
But let's think about that for just one second, because we need to take one quick break.
Okay.
We're going to hear a short word from our sponsor, Wolters Kluwer, and then we'll be back with our first CPE code for this session. Welcome back. And if you look at the bottom of your screen, you should see the first CPE code for this session. That's the bell to remind you that you want to write that down if you're planning on claiming CPE credit for this session. Alexandra, do you want to pick up where we left off?
Yes, so let me repeat the question for those of you who were not here in the beginning, or I might have forgotten what I said 5 seconds ago. Basically, we talked about at this point, you have reached the point of success where you feel like you're going to be able to grow, elevate, scale. So you don't have to take every client. And you don't have to keep every client. And you know, there's controversy around firing clients. What are some of the factors you can look at to decide who your ideal client is? And I'm going to start with Cathy.
Yeah, so I think the very first thing to do is get comfortable with data within your firm. So you need a way to be able to create different dashboards, to be able to leverage and mine your data to see how profitable the different clients are across the different service lines. Then I think it's understanding what are your capabilities of your staff and what are the complexities of those clients and can you best serve those? Do you need to spend time educating your staff more to better serve them so you can be more efficient? So I think there's multiple factors in terms of where you want to be and where you want to grow. And so it really comes down to just understanding your client base across your different service lines.
Okay, and then Sean, to kind of piggyback on what Cathy said about knowing what's within your staff from the previous, from another session, which was, you know, it might be someone that you wouldn't think could do an advisory service. It might be an executive assistant. It might be someone else. How do you figure out what those capabilities are of your staff when it's stuff that they're not currently doing?
So I believe very strongly in leaning on people's passions and strengths, no matter what they are. Every single person that works at your office is a human being that has passions and strengths. And it doesn't matter if it's actually accounting. I know this is going to sound really, really weird, but that passion and strength, you want to know what they are, because when you learn who that human being is, one, you're a better manager. You're helping, you have people that work for you, not machines. But then you can start to learn about what those skills are and then find out how you can leverage it in your business. I have an employee that is passionate about crypto. If he doesn't want to advise on crypto, we just ain't going to do it, because I sure ain't messing with the stuff. I am a big video game player. One of our 3 primary niches in our business, I'd mentioned earlier it was medical, is one. Another is software developers, especially of video game developers. Yeah. Do you think I have a rapport with video game players if I'm 95 hours into a game right now? I mean, we can chat about the games, which then makes me have a better relationship, which then allows me to give the advisory services. The same is true about your staff. If your staff is into swimming, if your staff is into real estate investment, just know who they are as people, and you can turn that into a revenue stream. And what we do internally, and obviously leveraging data is critical, I take a whole different step back when I'm doing workshops and I'm coaching. It's who do you dream to work with? Who is, like, if you could paint a picture of that perfect client, write every trait down about them. We have a no jerk rule. I don't want you to be a jerk. You don't get to F-bomb us. You are appreciative, but industries are fine, but we write every characteristic, and this is not about excluding or firing. This is about identifying who I want to attract. And we participate as a team. We talk about who do we have the most fun with as existing clients, or gosh, one day, golly, I'd sure love to work with NFL players. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing is off the table. But unfortunately, we tend to restrict ourselves. Well, this is who I'm helping, so I guess I got to help them more. You get to shift this, because if you really think about it, if you've defined the perfect client, revenue, location, age, passion, you can now start to ask for that more. And so while you're working the data, some of your clients might be that, but then you're going to start pushing out the ones that aren't.
Right.
And you just start replacing. And so it's clarity around perfect.
Yeah.
And you ask for that more, and you're going to be shocked how much it shows up if you just start asking for it.
Well, and I think just in terms of focusing on your strengths, what the end result is a really great client experience. And
Totally.
honestly, if we bring that back to kind of our growth pillar that we're talking about, client experience is the differentiator. And even at Wolters Kluwer, when we develop our software, we really take the voice of the customer in. We spend a lot of time working side by side with our customers to understand what they want. And the approach that you're talking about is pretty similar. Like, what am I good at? What clients do I want to serve? What are their needs? And then delivering to that.
And we also fire clients as a team.
Yes.
Right? And so that's super important, and something that we talk a lot about in RightWorks is coining somebody as a smart client manager inside of your firm, right? Somebody who, and the idea of smart client management is the daily activity of making sure whatever your business model is, whatever your ideal client profile is, you have somebody who's intentional about moving your business model in that direction, right? Because if not, then you just get back to taking everything that walks in the door.
It's
right?
okay to say no.
And it's okay to say no.
But I like if you have it written down of here's the qualities of yes and the qualities of no. It's harder to get the qualities of yes, but if it's a flat out, they're F-bombing me, then your employees should be empowered to come to you and say, they are on the no list, and now what should I, and then what do you do?
Yeah, 2 years ago, we fired our highest revenue key number, not profitable, the highest revenue client, because they were a schmuck.
Yeah.
We thought they just didn't have a relationship with one of the consultants. We rolled them to a different consultant, said, nope, still a schmuck. And we just said, hey, we're not renewing, it's time to go, good luck, we will help you with your transition. And every time, now I know there's a passion against firing clients, and there's people that are passionate for. There's almost this movement of fire everybody. Look, if we fire everybody, we don't have any revenue.
Right.
I'm not talking about that.
You can go home with your cats.
I can go home with my cats. Got a lot of them. But it's, if you know who you want to attract, and you say no to those that you don't want, you open the door. And every time I've ever fired someone, no joke, within 48 hours, I land another client of equal or greater value almost every single time. And usually it's 2 to 3 times the value. I don't know why it works that way. Is it the universe saying you're making the right choice? But I have had so much success in culling the jerks.
Yeah.
And by the way, jerks hang out with jerks. So you're going to get more referrals by working with jerks. And it's just going to keep coming.
So I knew this was going to happen.
Uh-oh.
We got the question, how do you fire a client?
Oh man, there's so many fun ways to do it.
I mean, nice. Like
Yes,
people are nervous to do it. They're not like you. They're not just like you're fired and you're fired and you're the weakest link. Like what's a nice way so that you're not going to ruin the reputation of your business. You're not going to feel bad. Your staff doesn't have to feel bad.
Yeah. You always want to handle it professionally. I mean, we all joke about get rid of them, and you'll hear, oh my gosh, how much at conferences do we hear people just say fire them, we're done with it. Nobody actually really does that. Right. There's a lot of mechanisms, and you do whatever's comfortable with you. We have allowed plenty to fire us. Like this jerk, we didn't come in and yell at them. We just said, it appears that we're not going to renew. We feel that this is not the right fit. We wish you the best. Go away. We had 7 different versions of letters. If you don't already know my story, back in 2017, I was the largest firm in Frisco, Texas. We then fired all of our tax returns in 30 days.
Yeah.
The largest firm just got rid of 2/3 of their revenue, and we had 7 different grades of letters. Some are like, we're not helping you, good luck, because we wanted them to go away. And had others, hey, we love you, we're going to help with this transition, tell us what you need, and you decide which version. You could decide which version.
Did you refer them?
Some of them I did. Some of them I actually made sure, I actually found them other CPAs. So there's, again, the different grades of go away, good luck, I don't want to ever see you again, to I love you, you're just not a fit for what we're doing, but tell you what, I've talked to so-and-so and they're already happy to, and I've matched made.
One person's trash is another one's treasure.
That's right.
There's a lot of tips and tricks we use, but you got to find how you want to handle it. You can sell your book. There's nothing wrong with that. But when we fire, it is always professional. I've allowed them to fire us. It appears that your fees are now 4 times as high. And oddly enough, they don't renew. Well, I'm so sorry. And they get to be the hero, and they got rid of you.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not breaking up with you. You're breaking up. I don't care who broke up. We broke up. Yes. So there's a lot of mechanisms. Honestly, you do it as comfortably as you want to, but you still need to make the decision. Right. It's a hard decision, but you do it anyways.
Right. So, Sean, I just had a quick question. When you are looking at those schmucks, that's a client relationship.
We're going to get in trouble. Wait, let's change that. Let's keep it with jerks. Let's keep it jerks.
Okay, jerks. Okay. I have a better word, but it's not G-rated. But okay.
So my question is, how do you, yes, there's the client relationship part of it, more of the relationship itself, but how do you otherwise identify which clients you do not want to work with?
It starts with my employees. How many clients are going to be really, really nice to you because you're the owner, and then they talk down to your staff? That is the easiest way to get fired. Treat my staff like they're beneath you. You don't get to be our client. And I really embrace this wording. They get to be your client. You're providing this amazing service. You have worked your tail off to get whatever degrees or certifications or experience you have. It's a privilege to work with you. And if you change your mindset, it makes it a little bit easier as they get to work with you. So my staff, for sure, that's a way to get out of here. Revenue. We have several clients that are grandfathered in at old subscription rates that we just continue nudging them up. And unfortunately, we're running a business. And so I've got one guy that has been grandfathered in because going through a divorce and some health issues, and we just let it go because I want to help that human being. But I got a business to run. And so I'm going to tell him in about a month, buddy, this is what your new fee is going to be. I am so sorry. If that doesn't fit, let me help you find somebody that does. You can always personalize as much as possible, but irritate my staff and price, those are the 2 biggies. There's a lot of other reasons that could come up, but those are the biggies.
And think, too, the message that sends your staff. I mean, in a time where staffing is the hardest at the moment, right? To know that the leader and the owner of this business cares about us first, and not that, oh, well, we're just serving a bunch of his friends or clients and they treat us horribly. I mean, that sets a tone from the very beginning of it's not always a staffing problem, but it also is a leadership problem, right? Of setting that business model and understanding that these are the types of clients that we work with, and we're not going to tolerate misbehavior to our staff, because for us, we want everybody to love their job just as much as we do.
I think it's really important to foster that culture of engagement and belonging, and that's certainly something that we've done again at Wolters Kluwer in terms of we want to keep our developers, we want to keep our product managers so that we can continue growing and so that our firms grow. The same thing has to happen within a CPA firm as well.
I want to give you some guardrails on it too, by the way. So I made the mistake of fully empowering my staff to make the decision. Don't do that. We fired some clients that I didn't want to fire. It's just they decided, I'm done. Have guardrails and protocols and procedures. And so ultimately the decision to fire is me or my director of operations. But a staff can submit and say, here's my problems, and we'll discuss. Sometimes it's not a fit with that employee. That's why that example is I tried it with one consultant. It rubbed the wrong way. Sometimes people just don't get along, and that's okay. We gave it another shot. If you give it more than the second shot, your staff will start telling you that, you're back to your point, is your staff wants to know you're there to support them. It is reasonable to try again, but it is not reasonable to keep bouncing them around, and then finally they realize, oh, he's saying he's going to protect us, but he's not really doing it. But guardrails, you or some other manager needs to have that authority to do so. Don't do what I did and allow the employees to do whatever they feel like, because we lost a couple really good clients because they said, I think you should go somewhere else. I'm like, where did that come from?
Hold on.
So not everybody's a bad client just because your employee says it.
Okay, we're going to take another really quick break and have another word from our sponsor, Wolters Kluwer, and then we'll be back with your second CPE code.
Firms face unprecedented challenges, From new compliance pressures to greater competition for talent. To ensure continued growth and profitability, firms need flexible and scalable solutions that will fit their needs, even as their needs change. Trusted by 15 of Accounting Today's 20 fastest growing firms and 90 of the top 100, CCH Access is the engine that powers the industry's top performers. The most complete cloud-based accounting firm technology platform, CCH Access Solutions, help firms take the hassle out of tax compliance, deliver higher quality audits and improved peer reviews, and create a more modern firm experience. Reduce the time your firm spends on basic compliance work so you can grow more value-added parts of your business. Centralized data in the CCH Access platform provides a complete picture of your client relationships so you can serve them better. While staffing challenges are increasingly common, client expectations have only increased. The CCH Access platform enables firms to maximize capacity by automating repetitive tasks and identifying red flags that may need more attention. Improve efficiency in your processes while building cohesiveness throughout the firm. The CCH Access platform provides a single source of truth for firm data and a multidimensional view of firm performance. Finally, you'll create a more modern firm experience for clients and staff with the CCH Access platform's cloud-based workflows. Anywhere, anytime access enhances work-life balance and provides staff with the flexibility they're looking for. The CCH Access platform offers the right features for your firm, now and in the future. Visit engagetax.walterskluwer.com/CCH Access to see our latest innovations and learn how CCH Access can help your firm evolve.
And we are back. And if you look on the bottom of your screen, it's time to record the second CPE code for this session. That's your reminder to write down that code if you're planning on collecting CPE credit for this session. So, Cathy, you had told us a while back about some survey results from Wolters Kluwer surveys and about who's growing and how.
Yeah, so I'll recap three key insights. The first one is that 60% of the firms told us that if they're using technology to its fullest extent, they're seeing an improvement in their realization rates, which is, of course, key to growing. Mm-hmm. The second one is really interesting. Of the traditional firms that we interviewed, they saw just a 1% year-over-year revenue growth, but that's compared to people using cloud-based products, so like CCH Access as an example, they saw 10% year-over-year growth. The third key insight that I would say is also firms that are willing to really step back and look at what are new service offerings that I could do. We're also seeing a correlation with increased revenue there. So it could be financial planning, it could be wealth management, it could be, well, as we look at going into 24, it could be around the beneficial ownership information reporting and providing advisory services there. And we do have a new solution coming out called CCH Access Beneficial Ownership that can be used by either the firm itself to provide the advisory or their clients directly. So we have options there as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of is a good segue into when talking about adding new services. We want to move to the second of the three topics for this session, which is elevating your practice. So let's talk about what we mean by elevating and how one might do it.
So in distinguishing, if we said scaling is getting more out of what you already have without actually having to add bodies or stuff. If growing is any version of it with stuff, locations and clients and whatever. To me, elevating is about you. Yeah. It's what are you trying to accomplish out of your life? And this is extremely important to me, and it's a passion. For example, I travel at least 6 weeks a year. I always take at least one vacation of a month. I always travel during spring break. Let me repeat that, accountant friends. I always take spring break as a vacation. Now that's a sin in our industry. You're not supposed to do that. That's terrible. Why would you do that? That is, for me, elevating my life. I get to spend more time with my family. I get to experience the world. Not everybody likes travel. That's fine. But you decide what is important to you, because now we're talking about your life plan and how this business supports you and your life plan. So to me, elevating is, now we've got it profitable. Now we've got it efficient. And now we're making money. And we got the things going. Why? Why are we even doing this? More is not better. More is just more. I want you to succeed, and you get to define succeed. So for me, it's travel, it's family, it's playing video games, it's working out, it's all kinds of things that are important to me. That's for me for elevation.
Yeah, and I mean, we tell firms all the time, we want to help you build a business that supports the life that you want to live. Whatever that means to you, and it could be something different to you as it does to you, but we want to help you gain back the freedom to be able to choose. Right? And so as I talk to firms, when they tell me, we were talking about this yesterday, I don't really care how good at tax returns you are. That's great, you know, or your practice management, even your processes, that's a vessel to get there. But when somebody says, you know, for the first time this year, I was able to go on spring break with my kids, or I didn't miss any dance recitals or kids activities, or I was just able to spend more time doing what I love, that's the ultimate success. That's why we're building and growing and scaling at the end of the day, is to get to that level, and not just building a business that supports your life, but in return, it's going to support the lives that your staff want to live as well.
I think for you to elevate your business, you need to kind of step back and elevate your people, and that's really what we're talking about. And I mean, I think in terms of how to do it, it's really comes back down to, like, what are your goals, both personal goals, professional goals, as well as development goals, and making sure everybody in the company has those, and that they're tracking towards that. And it's not just a one-time performance management conversation, but it's ongoing throughout the year.
Yeah, and sit down with each staff person.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
each member of your firm, and understand them on an individual level, as you were talking about earlier, and understand what are their goals, right? You know, now with technology, people can work remote. It's not this 9 to 5, butts in seats, I better watch you, you know, working all day, every day. It's a different world, right? And we're not going back to that world. So how do we have more of an open-mindedness of how people want to work? You still got to get the work done, right? And you still got to be held accountable for that work. But how do you, and for some, you know, for some firms that are more in a traditional model, well, it was always done that way, and so that's the way we're always going to do it. The world has moved on.
Yeah, I mean, that brings up Sally, our friend Sally.
Yeah.
Same as last year. And I think to elevate, you do need to you know, depart your friendship from Sally, and look at new ways of working. How can you work differently?
Yeah. I'm going to come back to the point we were talking about employees. So, show of hands, how many of you freaked out or cringed when you're like, I have to sit down and meet with all these people? Hold on, you don't. So one of the biggest and most important changes I made at my firm is I acknowledged I am absolutely terrible at managing people and holding them accountable. I'm that crazy visionary that comes up with ideas and plans and strategies. That's my jam. I assume, hey employee, here's the project I want you to do, here's the result I'm looking for, you good? Sweet. And then I'm going to run off and go do my work, and as far as I'm concerned in my head, you're completed the work. Employees don't do that. Who knew? They need to be reminded. So I found I'm terrible at that, and that is completely okay. It is okay to be bad at something. I hired a director of operations that is an amazing leader. She is responsible for my team. I express the missions, the goals, the outcomes I'm wanting. So when you're saying you need to manage your people, I know that we accountants sometimes go, I'm not trained in that. I don't want to do it. I just want to go back and do returns. It's totally cool. Be bad at it. Acknowledge what you're bad at and put people in place that can handle the stuff that you're bad at. And I am terrible at leading people. I'm great at coming up with silly stories. That's about the best I got. So.
And having 5 cats.
And having 5 cats. Yes, I have 5 cats. Talk to me at a conference, I'll tell you why.
There is a question that came in from the audience, going back to, oh man, this is touching upon many previous sessions. Many firms scale by utilizing remote employees. Generally speaking, how do you balance the nexus issues when considering hiring employees with multiple states? How do you handle remote employees? I don't know. I mean, I know that was a remote employee whole entire session, but I think that it's relatable to Elevate. Anyone take it?
Well, I worked for 18 years remote from a corner of the east coast of Canada, as far as you could go before you hit Greenland. And you know, you basically have to have a presence with your team to help with understanding, you know, and elevating within. And I would say use your videos within remote environments. Make sure you have constant communication. So those are a few tips.
There are tons of articles and blogs and videos out there giving you tips and tricks, right? But it is about contact. In my case, I have a person that knows how to manage that. When they're remote, you have to interact with them differently. Now, you're asking about Nexus and the technical. Oh my gosh, anybody ever tried to hire somebody in a different state? We know that you have to register in that state.
Yeah.
The state's going to take anywhere between 4 weeks and 4 years to freaking get your processed and get you an ID. But oddly enough, my employees don't want to wait 4 weeks to 4 years to get that first paycheck. It's really strange. It stinks. We know it stinks. You just have to weather the storm. So if you're going to hire a person in Jersey, you need to, as quickly as you can, learn what it means to hire somebody in Jersey and what their protocols are. If you're not going to have the idea, you do the best you can in communicating with your employee. If there's a Nexus issue, now that you got to report because you have a body there, this is what we do. If you do not want to do that, if you do not know how to do that, that is why companies like ADP and other HR-related solutions, they're out there. One thing, and this is obviously not an ADP session, but I use ADP Run because I'm a smaller firm. We continue to look at ADP Total Source, which operates like a PEO, which they've already registered in all those states. So they've solved the employee payroll portion. They have not solved my Nexus. I have to report there. But that's half the battle taken out.
But it's going back to technology. Like,
it's technology.
Yeah.
Technology and expertise. So everybody's situation is different. You just have to decide, Run is where I still am. I'd like to do that, but I'm too small for it. So you have to figure out technology and other resources and people. It ain't easy, guys. I'm sorry. It's just not.
But really, going back to, like, how can I improve and elevate just the culture within? It's helping really build that mindset of the firm culture. It's taking out the mundane, the manual work, and really automating what you can using technology and improved processes.
And if a couple times a year you want to get together in person, Cabo, Hawaii. I mean, get together in person and plan retreats, right?
Yeah.
Where you do get some of that in-person interaction. Technology is great. Video conferencing has helped out a lot, but there's still that great human in-person interaction.
So again, like going back to what we talked about with growth in terms of, like, first, what is stopping you? I think with this theme here for elevation, what are your limiting beliefs of being able to elevate? Like, do you have clients that say, I'm not gonna use your client portals. I want to do it this way. How do you get over something?
Yes, they do all the time, right?
And what happens is that it goes back to the business model issue too, right? And identifying what technologies you want to use, but all the time we let the clients dictate the technology. And the story that I like to tell is, I can't go to Starbucks and order a cheeseburger or a Coke. They don't offer that. Or I can't take my Keurig into Starbucks and say, I know you got all that great technology back there, but can you just use my, like, why would I do that, right?
Exactly.
But yet we allow clients to bring us a QuickBooks backup file or what have you, and that blows up your entire business model.
Right.
And
but if you believe that to elevate, you need to, like, get rid of those manual processes and use new innovation and technology, then you need to identify what's stopping you and ask your clients to do things different, but remove their resistance to that.
Right.
So I think that's the key. I was recently in a training where it said I equals I forget. It was basically, how do you influence someone? And a lot of times we try to persuade. So I equals P over R, persuasion over resistance. And a lot of times when I'm trying to convince you to do something in a new, different way, I'm just trying to persuade you. Well, guess what? That's not going to work as much as if I understood what your resistance was and removed that. Then I'd be faster to influence you. So I think if you could identify those limiting beliefs and what, as an example, what clients are maybe standing in your way, you can address that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of resistance, it's actually funny. We've talked about this a lot before. I've talked a lot, and one of the single biggest resistance I get from practitioners is they go, well, yeah, that's all great and dandy that we've got to change prices, we've got to change clients. I don't have time to even decide. Right. I don't even have time. I am busy doing tax returns. You've got to make this time. Right. And how you clear that time, it could be implement a technology solution so that you can. But there's always an excuse on why, and it's limiting beliefs. And so let's get rid of the excuses, and here's a trick that I use all the time. It works, and if I had a secret to my success, this is it. It is the work on the business day. Yeah. And here's your rules. No less than quarterly, no less than a 4-hour chunk. What I want you to do is hide from everyone. Don't sit in your office where your employees can bother you. Don't go home where your dog can climb on your face. Go to a coffee shop, go somewhere else. In this moment, you are the owner. You have to make the time to own your company as opposed to being the employee of a really crappy boss who always knows when you're screwing around, which is you. Now, how do I do that? I can't make time. Think of it this way. If your single biggest client called you up and said, I need you, I have a very important decision to make, I need 4 hours of your time, what would you do with your calendar? You would shuffle a little bit. You would clear it because this is your most important client. They generate the most revenue. Who's the one individual that is the most important and generates the most revenue in your life besides your spouse? Because we know, right? Sugar mamas are important. But seriously, you're it. You're the most important client. Why are you not spending any time with this client? Clear it. These things that we're talking about, in fact, the whole event, are giving you all these great ideas. What we don't want you to do is finish and go, cool, CPE, and I'm done. Do something.
Yeah.
And if your barrier is like, yeah, that's all fine and dandy, I don't have time to do something, I'm actually multitasking right now because I'm just kind of listening in the background, pause, clear, 4 hours a quarter. I'd prefer 8. See what happens. I promise you'll be better. You'll make better decisions. You'll come up with some idea. It might be tech, it might be employees, it might be clients. Do something.
Well, and you can bring other people in from your firm. Like, if maybe that's another idea, because if it's all about yourself, then there's no accountability. But if you have a team, even if it's one person on that team, right, where it's like quarterly brainstorming of how to better the business meeting or something, then you can't back out on it because it's not just you're disappointing yourself, right?
Yeah, I think there's all kinds of tips and tricks. Like, for example, every Friday I will look ahead at my week ahead and make sure I'm prepared, make sure that I know exactly, and do I want to take all these meetings? Does it serve my purpose? And so I think quarterly, weekly, even daily, I use the methodology, most important task for the day. What is the most important thing that I have to do that day? Because once you get caught up in your 30-minute meetings, or 1-hour meetings, whatever it might be, you lose sight of what did you actually need to do to move your business forward that day.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of programs and communities out there to help people now, right? And to stay accountable, and you don't have to feel like you're on an island by yourself doing these things, right? Like, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. So reach out if you're having a hard time, staying accountable. I mean, there's practitioners out there wanting to help people.
I love that. That's worth repeating. We are all not on an island, and I felt it. Oh my God, every practitioner has felt, oh my gosh, I'm on my alone. I can't admit I'm screwing something up to somebody. Right. There are a lot of us out there. They're here to help.
Yeah, I think it's important to have mentors and an identified group where you can have ask for help.
And it's not, because as an owner, you feel like it's this mountain of stuff. And where do I start? Where's step 1? Where's step 2? Do I start with technology? Do I start with staff, right? And so to be able to at least organize those thoughts and organize those to-dos to where you at least have a plan moving forward, and you don't feel like you're on an island, by yourself doing those things.
We have our conference every year in October, and it's called CCH Connections, and that's what people are coming for. They're coming to learn new technology and things like that, but they're coming to meet people and network and form new connections so that they can get that help throughout the year.
It's huge. Yeah.
And you never quite know. What's funny is, like, by the way, and you're talking about having a retreat or getting everybody together, I know a lot of us say, well, I don't have the budget for that. Do you go to conferences?
Right.
Every one of my employees will always go to at least one conference because there's too much value in what they can learn. We use those as great moments to get together because we're scattered across the U.S. as well. So that's another way. You can multitask certain things on getting those teams together, but again, make the time for the people, make the time for yourself. come up with some decision to make yourself better. That is elevate. You never will get there if you don't even take an action toward it.
Right.
All right, we're going to take our third commercial break to hear one more word from our sponsor, Wolters Kluwer, and then we'll be back with your third CPE code and more interesting information. Welcome back, and if you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the third CPE code for this session.
I'm going to let Andy do the honors.
Oh, yes.
All right.
I'm done.
Well done. All right, so be sure to write that code down if you're planning on receiving CPE credit for this session. So we've talked about growth and we've talked about elevation, and scaling has sort of filtered into these conversations, but let's talk a little bit more about actually what scaling is and how you would actually go about doing it.
A lot of it depends on your definition of what you're trying to accomplish, right? What do you want to do? New revenue is an easy way to say it. I mean, we all want more revenue, and a very simple way to scale, and you had actually hinted at this at the very, very beginning of this session, using the existing clients, but really just finding new opportunities to serve them. It is harder and more expensive to get a new client than it is to just make your current client happy. So offer a new service. You generate more revenue with very little extra effort. You're not having to go do prospect meetings and whatnot. You're just telling a client, hey, by the way, and we talked about this in some earlier sessions. Technology is huge as well, but to me, one of those many, and I'm sure you guys will have plenty of ideas, just find new ways to serve the clients you have. New revenue with the existing resources. That's not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm. When I think about scale, I think about how can I scale my business, like serve more clients with the same base of technology that I have. We think about it at Wolters Kluwer, and how can I have CCH Access serve more in the industry and yet have it be a really high-performing application when our customers need it the most. So when we think about that, it goes back to, again, what is holding me back in terms of being able to scale? And we were speaking with Ariana Campbell at Boomer, and she had a great point, and it was really all around tech debt. And it's not just tech debt within software, of course, which we think about, but it's also what is tech debt within a firm. So what she meant by that was, what are some different, are you doing too many versions of the same software? Are you using tools that aren't supported anymore? Do you have security issues because you're using old technology? So it's really stepping back and looking at what are the tools, what tech debt do you have in a firm, and then making a plan and a roadmap to remove it.
And integrating.
And integrating, and each year do an audit, right?
Exactly.
And maybe at the end of the year, you're in a good spot and you don't have to do anything.
Exactly. How many disparate solutions do you have where data is not flowing?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, validating that you're on the right track is still a good decision.
It's still a decision.
Yeah,
Right.
And that's fine. You can be fine.
That's a good thing. And also being proactive, right? I mean, we get into these modes of reactive because that's how we start our business. So the client asks for something, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we can do that. Instead of, as I was talking earlier about, empowering your staff to be more proactive, but to doing that, it is leveraging the right type of technology, but also collecting data about your clients and making that data transparent across your entire team. If Sean only knows that this client, doesn't have a buy-sell agreement or qualifies for 401k or whatever, there's a lot of soft data out there that we got to start to figure out and capture.
Data is really the key, and I think the other key word we touched on a second ago is integration.
Yeah.
And again, just to bring it back to Wolters Kluwer for a second, we have our CCH Marketplace, which is really leveraging all the different vendors in the industry that want to be part of CCH Access as the core, so that you're not doing duplicate processes across your workflow.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's really key, is what can you eliminate so that you can scale.
Well, and I love the elimination thing. So if we talked about the tech stack earlier on.
Yeah.
You can have too many. Dude, just write down all the pieces of software you have.
Right.
Don't forget, you actually get to choose what you use. Like if they're showing up with QuickBooks Desktop and Xero and QuickBooks Online and some weird hybrid of FileMaker Pro they
Set some
created,
best practices for your clients.
pick it. We are QuickBooks Online shop.
That's what we
Period.
do.
You
Right.
walk in with Desktop, we'll charge you for conversion. You walk in with Xero, I'll say I can support you on how accounting rules are, but I can't use the tool.
Yeah.
We choose it. There are enough clients out there in every subsegment saying no to the choice of a tech stack. And now if you were using 4 different accounting systems and you've now narrowed it to one, that gets rid of tech
And guess
debt.
what?
Right.
QuickBooks Online flows directly into our Access engagement.
How convenient.
Doing
Well, and
something
another-
better.
Yeah.
Right?
Another way to
Simplifying
scale that also involves technology is you may be using one product, but your clients may be using different versions of the same product. And so you have to know
That's right.
all the versions.
Yeah.
So just say, no, it's going to be this.
This and only this.
This is it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not bossy and you're not telling your client this is how you're going to do business.
But it'll be the best experience.
It will.
But it is our belief that this is going to create the best experience for you. It's going to help us better support you. We're experts in this. We're going to require that as we move forward. And if they say no, good luck. Go find somebody that's charging $20 an hour, and then they'll call you later when you do the giant cleanup.
You can charge them more.
I'll charge them more.
All right, well, this has been great, everyone. Thank you so much. And thank you, Walters Kluwer, for sponsoring this session. We have 2 sessions left. We're going to be back at the top of the hour. So we will see you then.
Awesome.